Hi, good people. Welcome to this new episode of the Macha Connect Show. Now, according to statistics, 85.5% of the Kenyan population is made up of Christians, while 10.9% is made of the Muslims, while the rest is catered for by the other religion. Now, Christians are governed by the biblical facts or biblical principles which help us live a godly life. While on the other hand, the law exists to safeguard the rights of every citizen, regardless that you are a Christian, you are a Muslim, or you belong to which kind of a religion. Now, the core principle behind the religion is faith, while on the other hand, the law relies on facts or proof. Now, this statement forms the basis of our discussion today, where we are discussing on matters pertaining the religion or Christianity and the law of land. Today, I'm hosting a friend of mine I've known for quite some time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. My name is Justice Motia, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya with 16 years of standing. That means I've been in practice for the last 16 years. Having been called to the bar in the year 2008, April. Thank you.
Okay, now with that, we can go straight to our discussion. Now, in Kenya, things look so tricky or so different when it comes to matters pertaining religion and the law. Because as Christians, we feel to some extent we are supposed to rely much more on our Christian beliefs, which will form the way we believe, the way we handle things and such. So my question was, is the religion stronger than the law?
I tend to think that the issue is that religion might not be stronger than the law, but you realize that religion and the law are two interdependent concepts. Why am I saying two interdependent concepts? It's like that when you look at the religion, for instance, when you look at the Bible, the Old Testament, you find the first books of the Bible, the books of Moses, are clearly dealing with the law. The law is given by God, and you realize that even when it comes to the religion, many of the laws that we are having are being informed by religion itself. And why am I saying this? I'm saying this because you realize that law itself does not develop from vacuum. It is actually develops from morality, how people are living, and that morality is informed by concepts like religion, because it is the way people are living, as people the way of living they have developed, the kind of environment that they are in, so that the kind of the values that they hold are shaped by those things, and that is where the religion is coming, because it is in terms of the things that people believe. It is these things that people believe also inform the kind of laws that they develop in the society.
Okay. Now, according to scholars, some of the scholars, I don't know if it is majority or it's the minority part of it, they believe that religion forms very poor part of basis of law. Do you agree with that?
I think I don't agree with that because you realize majority of the concepts that we are having in the law itself, those concepts are borrowing a lot from the religion. Let me give you an example. Look at the Constitution of Kenya itself. When you look at the preamble, it starts with a statement where it says acknowledging the Almighty God. Acknowledging. When you look at that preamble, it says on acknowledging the supremacy of the Almighty God of all creation. So that when you look at that wording of the Constitution, what does it tend to tell us? It is actually acknowledging the presence of religion, because when we talk about God, what are we talking about? We are actually referring to the religion. We are deferring to God. And we are simply saying that we acknowledge His presence. When you look at various concepts within our laws, you realize those concepts are again informed by religion itself. Let me give you an example. In the cases of murder, we talk about the concept of manslaughter. When you look at the concept of manslaughter, if I expound a little bit, you realize this, in that law, God was addressing a case where somebody killed somebody, not through premeditation, but by mistake or by accident. And He created what is called in the Old Testament the cities of refuge, where He was saying, if you kill somebody by mistake, you could run to the city of refuge, stay there until the high priest at that time dies, and then you are going to be free. So that whereas God was acknowledging that somebody has been killed, at the same time He is providing a solution to that, so that that person is not killed. And you remember if you remember in the Old Testament, the law which was applying then was eye for eye, tooth for tooth. So that if you kill somebody, you are also supposed to be killed. But here God comes with a concept and He says, run to the city of refuge if you do it by mistake. And you realize it is the same time here, the same thing in our laws. We are saying, if you kill somebody by mistake and we are able to prove that you did it by mistake, there is no need of punishing you like somebody who has done it with all ingredients for murder. So we provide manslaughter. And I believe that is a concept that is borrowing a lot from religion and many other laws. Actually, many of our criminal many of the offenses under the criminal law in our penal code, you find that they are borrowing a lot from the Old Testament laws.
Okay. Now, do you believe that religion and law should remain separate?
In terms of, it depends with the concept that you are dealing with.
Like, one, we have seen from your statement earlier, we have seen some contradicting information whereby, like, the biblical law in the Old Testament was saying an eye for an eye. But when we look at the law speaks different, whereby it will judge based on the facts which are brought before either the court of law or the authorities. Is that not conflicting?
I tend to think there is no conflict between the law and religion, because again, even when you look at the operations of the law within the Old Testament, you realize that even where people are being judged, things like calling evidence was being needed. And that's why in the Bible, in the Old Testament, it was said you could not kill a person on account of a witness, of just one witness. That's why when you look even at the trial of Jesus, again in the New Testament, they end to get some witnesses, although it was a setup, they still end to get some witnesses to testify against him, because it was again looking at what was required. And that's why I'm saying this difference or separation between religion and law, to me, it is an abstract concept. Why am I saying abstract? Because when you look at the implementation itself, you realize that law is still borrowing a lot from religion. There are many religious concepts that are also informing the law. Whether you are looking at it from the Muslim perspective, or you are looking at it from a Christian perspective. Remember, even when it comes to the Muslims, they are still being informed by the Old Testament part of the Bible, so to speak. So that they will still be referring to the same law of religion, so to speak. So that the concept of the separation between the state and the religion so to speak, is a concept to enable governance to work well, so that we can have what we call the civilian authority and the religious authority, so that we can have the religion, to me, serving like an adversarial law to the civilian authority, where we can have the religious people being in a position where they can advise the civilian authority. So it is a concept that is there for the purposes of ensuring there is a smooth running, where we don't have a conflict between the civilian authority and also the religious authority. But it is not to say that these are two dependent aspects that are going, as if I may talk the way we are talking in the mathematics, they are not parallel lines. They are likely to meet here and there, and you find them informing a lot of concepts. And that's why, again, I think the best way of illustrating this, again, it remains to be again in a criminal law. In a criminal law, even after you are convicted, we talk about mitigation. When you are mitigating, what are you referring to? You are now appealing to kind of forgiveness, to connect with the judge or magistrate, so that you appeal to his emotions, so that he can think whether to forgive you or whether to lessen the kind of the sentence that he is going to give you. Even after applying the law, there is still that appealing to other concepts, so that this person can be merciful to you.
Okay, now, in this case, we have seen some biblical principles trying to give like linear justice. Do you believe religion can affect the quality of justice or quality of governance?
I don't think that religion should affect the quality of governance. To me, religion should inform that governance, those concepts, because it is the religion that has some of the profound concepts that we talk about. Talk about servanthood. When people are talking about servanthood, where are they borrowing it? They actually borrowing it from the concept of Jesus, where he washed the feet of his disciples, because that is where the concept of servanthood is discussed. And although in the secular world they might try to bring it with their own understanding, which might differ from the theological explanation or interpretation of it, the truth of the matter remains that is a concept that is being borrowed from the Bible. When people are saying they are servants to the people, it is that concept that is coming from there, and many other concepts that are flowing from there.
So should we allow civil authorities to structure our lives as Christians?
The issue is not allowing civil authorities to structure our lives. The issue is allowing civil authorities to govern as per the law. Why am I saying as per the law? Remember, from the start of our discussion, we are saying majority of the laws that we are having have been informed by the religion itself. And again, remember what the Bible says in the book of Romans, that we are supposed to respect those that are authority. Then again, when Paul is writing to Timothy, again he tells him prayers should be offered for the kings and those that are in authority. So that the issue is not about allowing them to structure our lives. The issue is about giving them that space to govern using the law of the land that is in place, and allowing and us being subject again to that law. Because as Christians, when it comes to Christians or religious people, they are subject to the law just like any other person. So there is that expectation that even the religious people are supposed to obey the law of the land. So you can't you can't convert people by force. If you look at the history of the Islam, for instance, there is history where they were doing crusade by forcing people to get into their faith, and even burning down the cities where the Islam was not properly received. Now you cannot have that scenario at the moment. Why? Because we have laws in place that are saying if you kill, you should be charged with murder. If you do something wrong, you are not going to hide in the religion and say, I've done this because I'm religious. The law is going to catch up with you. And we have live examples. You remember we have the Shakahola issue that is still alive in the court. Why have the people that were involved in Shakahola found themselves charged in court? Because they went against the law. So that even as we do as people exercise their religious practices, they are still required to do it within the law. And so the civilian authority is there to ensure whether a Christian, whether a Muslim, whether an atheist, or even whether a traditionalist, whatever practice you are in, you are able to obey the law. And that's why when you look at the structure of the law, it is allowing all the people. One of the rights within the Constitution, one of the fundamental rights and freedoms is that the right of conscience and the freedom to religion, so that people are able to practice their religion without being interfered with.
Okay, now we have seen in most cases some Christian rise to power. Let's give an example of small offices around in our town. There are Christians who are in those offices, but we have had cases of bad governance. As Christians, how are we supposed to respond to a fellow brother in such a situation?
I think when a fellow brother, one, gets into a position of authority, it is important again to ensure that the way that person governs, for instance, and does his work, it should again be informed by the Christian values, which are known. The problem we have, and this problem was discovered by one of the philosophers called Montesquieu, who said that power corrupts, and absolute power seems to corrupt also absolutely. The problem is when people enter into the positions of authority and they walk away from the position of humility, and they take the position of being demigods because they are exercising some authority, and they forget that that authority is temporal. So that even when God gives you an opportunity to be in a position, you are not there forever. You are going to be out there. So what kind of legacy are you going to leave? Most of the times when people get into their offices of authority, they forget that it is an opportunity to serve just for a limited time. And after that time, you are going to be out. And people get full of themselves. If it is elected positions, they forget the people who elected them. They forget they are servants to the people that elected them, and they stop exercising the values that they were exercising before. Many times, the election of those people, or even appointment of those people, when they are appointed to the offices, sometimes they are based, not even sometimes, many times, they are based on the values that they are holding. And the moment they get into the office and they depart from those values, they become something else. We can only say, without mincing our words, they have left the path of light. They have stopped exercising the values that they were exercising. But that does not mean that religion is bad. It only means that that person has left the path that we are expecting him to walk. He has backslidden, so to speak. And the values that we are expecting him to exercise, he is not exercising. So we cannot say based on that person that religion is bad. We can only say he is the one who has walked away from the path of light. The expectation is where people are governing, are following those religious values. We expect there to be impartiality in the way they are dealing with the people. We expect people to walk in the paths of integrity. We expect people to be faithful in their service, the service that they are giving. And if Christians, for instance, were to hold on those values, you realize even the cases of corruption will go down. The cases of people inflating tenders will go down because people are living to the values. The problem we have is people departing from the values that they have held dear after they get into the positions of authority. And I believe that is one of the problems we need to cure in our country. If people held into those values, I believe our governance will be better than the way it is.
So, as we Christians, are we supposed to be subject to these civil authorities even in the midst of bad governance?
A tricky question. Even in the midst of bad governance, what are people supposed to do? I would say the only way to change governance is through the legally recognized mechanisms. First to start. So that if we are talking about bad governance, in elective positions, the governance starts first with the elective positions, because it is the people in the elective positions that are supported by the appointive positions. So that the question is the kind of people that we are electing into the offices. What informs the way we elect them? Because the problem starts with that. So that even when the Christians are talking about governors or religious people talking about governors being bad, we should ask ourselves as Christians or as religious people, what has been our contribution to that governance? When we go to elect people, what informs us in exercising? Remember, elections, participating in elections is a civil right for every Kenyan, so to speak. So when I'm exercising that is civil right, again, what informs my choice? One of the problem we have in the country is the culture of handouts. And let me tell you, without missing my words, one of the serious problems is that even that culture of handouts has also gotten into church, where politicians are able to try to influence the choices of people by participating in churches, giving handouts. Sometimes the handouts can be coached as some contributions to development projects in the church. But the truth is, we are giving them so that we can be seen, we are contributing, and we can influence the people. So that when we are influenced by the wrong things, then it is garbage in, garbage out. You don't make the right choice. So that even as we talk about responding to the bad governance, then we should first ask ourselves, how are we contributing to that bad governance? Now, once there is bad governance, we now come how do we respond to that bad governance? And I'm saying there are legal means of responding to the bad governance. That's why we have the concept of impeachment, for instance, in the Constitution, where people can be impeached. Where we have the principle now, we are having the principle of recalling people like MPs, although it is yet to be properly fully implemented. And that's why, again, the elective positions are not for eternity.
Okay.
After 5 years, you can come back and say, this person has not worked for us well. Let us remove him. And finally, the other position of a religious person, and talking about a Christian, I think it is the position of prayer, that we should also be able to pray for the people that are in authority. Because it would be wrong. It would be wrong for me to say that we go to the streets. That might not be the position of a religious person. The position of a religious person is influencing change through his beliefs. So that you influence change through the values that you hold dear. One, by exercising those values in doing the elections, and exercising those values in making the right choices, exercising those values by influencing others and making sure the others can be able to buy your position, and you are able to influence change by that. But I will not advocate for a place of violence where people will take the path of violence. What sometimes is called revolution might not be the place of a religious person in terms of responding to bad governance. If we have to respond to bad governance, we should respond through the constitutionally and legally accepted means.
Okay, now, away from governance, as Christians, we may find ourselves on the other side of the law. Like, for example, you find marriage conflicts. Now, how can we resolve these conflicts from Christian and the law point of view? How do you advise?
I think one, to resolve conflict, people should be able to come together, sit down, and try to find a middle ground. And that's why when you look at conflict resolution now, even in our country, we are kind of moving from what we call the adversarial system. In adversarial system, we say the winner takes it all. So that if you win, the other person loses. But we are now having the concept of mediation, where people are brought together by somebody who can help them to resolve their issues. When it comes to marriage conflict, for instance, when you look at the structure again of our marriage law, is that no marriage should be dissolved until it has irretrievably broken down. That is a concept that says if the marriage can be saved, let it be saved. And one of saving it is allowing people to come together, sit together, reason together, and come to a middle ground and be able to resolve issues. One of the challenges we are having at our times is that people have become impatient. People want instant solutions. And as people look for instant solutions, they should remember, to quote a friend of mine, if you get married late and you want a baby, your baby does not come within 2 months because you married late. You still have to wait for the gestation period of 9 months, so to speak, for your baby to come. We need to understand being patient with one another. We need again to embrace the concept of forgiveness. We have witnessed escalation of violence, especially in the area of relationships in this country, where people are killing one another because they have disagreed because of relationships. And I'm saying that is not the way to go. People should be able to come together, reason together, and agree. And if they are not able to agree, again, the law gives us the options. They can separate. They can under the law now. I'm talking now in the perspective of the law. Under the law, they can separate. They can even divorce. But the biblical position is people should be able to come together, reason together, forgive one another, and be able to live as brothers and as sisters.
Okay. Now, in some cases, like you have brought back some big topic. Uh, Today, we have found ourselves in some conflicting cultural practices, like if I may say, like marriage. There are some cultural practices which are done before you engage in the legal marriage. So, as a Christian, there are some conflicting things there. How should you handle them?
As a Christian, there is the need to align our values again with the cultural practices. And if I'm a Christian, the question that I should ask myself first is what is the place of a particular cultural practice within my Christian faith? And if that kind of practice does not align with my Christian faith, then my place as a Christian is to discard that cultural practice. And remember, all things in the society, things are not static. So that a particular cultural practice that has been existing for some time, there is nowhere written on the stone that that practice has to be there forever. So that because of your religious beliefs, you can soon depart from a particular cultural practice. And that's why the law itself gives us that freedom by giving us the freedom of conscience, so that you are able to think about something, and if you feel that that something is not adding value to your faith, you are allowed to depart from it. But I need to add, how you deal with a cultural practice again becomes a personal decision that you have to make. Because so long as that kind of cultural practice is not a practice that has been proscribed under the law, that is to say, it has not been prohibited under the law, nobody will tell you by force, leave a particular practice. So it becomes your personal decision, depending on your personal belief, to decide to leave a particular practice because it is not building your faith, or it is not agreeing with your values. And we have many things that people have discarded over time because they were not believing in them. Even when it comes to the law has tried to address some of the cultural practices.
So, does the law recognize cultural practices?
Yes, the law recognizes cultural practices. That's why I've said, if the cultural practices are not prohibited under the law. For instance, again, when you come to the area of marriage, under the Marriage Act of 2014, one of the marriages that is recognized is customary marriage. That is one of the marriages recognized under the law. So the law recognizes that you can be married under your customs as a person. And it says, once it recognizes that, it means that if there is any need to prove whether that marriage took place, then it means you go to court and you prove that certain cultural practices were done so that marriage could become marriage as per the law. For instance, if we are talking about Kamba customary marriage, we will be talking about the 3 or 5 goats depending on where you come from, but that are an odd number, which popularly Wakamba call them there. If we are talking about Kikuyu, they will talk about Ngurasho. So that you are able to prove those things were done. And if you are able to prove, then the magistrate or judge will not have a problem saying that you have been properly married. So there are cultural practices, provided they are not harmful to the other rights of the people. They are accepted in the law across the board.
Okay, so I do not want us to finish this conversation without touching something to do with domestic violence.
Yes.
Now, domestic violence is touching on biblical principles,
yes,
and also the law of the land.
Yes.
Now, how do you advise in such a circumstance?
Again, the concept of domestic violence, as I alluded later, there has been a lot of instances of domestic violence, and I tend to believe that that escalation or that increase of those instances has also been informed by the kind of the society we have become over time. Because again, some of the values that people held dear in the years that are gone are no longer held dear. The concept of elders within the society has kind of been diluted, and now it is the concept of my dress, my choice. If it does not fit my definition, I leave it. If it does not fit my expectation, I'm not willing to compromise and calm down. And because of that kind of values being downgraded, so to speak, you realize even where people were able to sit down, listen to their elders, listen to advice that could help them, they are no longer willing. They are first to make decisions. They are first to even go to that an extent of using violence. And the understanding goes that violence begets violence. So that if you decide to resolve issues using violence, then you expect also to get violence in return. And that's why when you look even at the law itself, you realize the law even talks about self-defense. So that even the law recognizes if you are being attacked, you can defend yourself. Now the question comes, when you defend yourself and you go to the other extreme, how are we going to treat it? So that now it becomes, because of that devaluation of the values, where values have been downgraded, because of the way people have come up within the society now, where very few now are not listening to elders. And that's why now we are having the concept of, I believe you want the concept of being leaderless. That concept of being leaderless is a concept that develops from where there is a vacuum, where there are no elders you can defer to, where you feel you are self-sufficient.
Yeah.
You are able to do your own things. And believe you me, that is now the kind of the society we are having, and it is something that needs to be addressed. Because out of that, because I feel I'm self-sufficient, then I'll react without even seeking counsel. Then before, people would seek counsel. Then before, when people end problems in marriages, people will seek counsel. Today, people are saying it is my right to privacy. There are some things that I cannot take out.
Or we Google.
Yeah, or we Google. We consult Mr. Google. And some of the solutions that are being given by that Googling are not speaking to your circumstances. Mm-hmm. Even in the law, we say there are places you reach and you say, let every case be judged according to its circumstances. So that you can be applying some hand device you have gotten from Google, and that hand device was for a particular circumstance. It does not attune or align with your circumstance, and you end up making a situation which was bad worse. And we end up not getting a solution. So my advice would be, although now when you talk about going back to some systems, people are saying those systems are not serving them. But I will still say this, that what is happening to you today is not happening to you as the first person.
Okay.
There are other people that have gone through those situations and they have been able to overcome. And that's why consulting other people, asking them how those situations could be addressed, to me is not a point of weakness. It's actually a point of strength. If you want your wood to be treated, you don't hide it. You expose it. And you should be ready to bear the pain that comes with that treatment. One of the fears that people are having is because the kind of solutions that are given when they go to the people that are with that experience, it's not solutions that are easy. Are solutions that might enable them to go through pain. Like when a person is telling you, forgive somebody, and you know what that person has done to you is causing you pain 24/7. So in 24 hours, in 7 days, you are in pain because of that person. And the elderly person is telling you forgiveness is also a medicine. So you say that that is not palatable, and you go to with your own ways. And I'm believing there are still, in quotes, some traditional methods. What the people of today are calling the analog methods. I can say here with a lot of conviction and certainty that those traditional ways of resolving things are still working today. We only need to be patient. We only need to be ready to defer to those systems. By the way, as you are talking, even in our court system today, we are talking about what is called alternative justice system, where now the court is agreeing that elders in the society can be brought together and they can listen to disputes and come up with a solution. If people are not able to get to agree to the solution, they can now proceed with the traditional way of litigation. But even our courts now are also deferring to the so-called traditional systems, which the people of today will refer to them as analog. And it is helping. It is helping. So we only need to develop the passion of patience. We only need to be to understand that we are not angels, and we should be ready to forgive one another and be strong and be able to forge ahead. Because the fact that you have done wrong today to me does not make you a devil. We can still come together, resolve our issues, and continue as brothers, as sisters, continue as Kenyans.
That is good. That is good. I think this conversation is demanding for another episode. If my host, if my guest will allow me, will arrange for a new episode where we'll discuss much more of this thing. If you want us to have another conversation with my guest, you can feel free to leave a comment below this video. Till next time, I will let my guest here to give some final sentiments, then give us information where we can find him in case we need any legal advice or any information of such kind of a thing, or if you need some assistance legal-wise. Welcome.
I just want to say that societies are not built on a vacuum. Society is you and me. And it is the values that we hold and practice that determine the kind of the society that we have. So it is important for us to uphold the values that are going to build the society that we aspire to have. I'm grateful for having me. I am an advocate of the High Court based at Machakos, practicing in the name and style of Mutia JM and Associates. My offices are at Kenya Commercial Bank Building here at Machakos, and I'm also a teacher of the law. I'm teaching law at Daystar University, and also a pastor. And I'm grateful for having me.
We appreciate so much for finding time in this talk. Thank you, people. Till another time, make sure you subscribe, like, and share this video so that other people may receive this information. Thank you.